Hello, hello, hello. I am super excited to be here. Let's see who's going to come on and join us. We are live today with National Black Doulas. I'm super excited as a Black doula myself and to celebrate Black Mothers Maternal Health Week. Super excited. My name is Doula Leah, and I am the doula behind Sweet Bee Services. So hey everybody, I'm going to be saying hello both from my live and from the National Black Doula Live. So bear with me while we have multiple devices, but I wanted to come on here today and talk about your womb. So anyone who has a womb, who has a uterus, I'm going to be using the terms interchangeably. Thanks for bearing with me. Who am I? Why am I up here talking? So my name is Leah Hairston. I am a full spectrum doula, which means I support people from the beginning of their menstrual cycle all the way through menopause. And I help people with female reproductive systems navigate their unique journeys through education and empowerment. Aside from being a full spectrum doula, I'm also a trained social worker. And so all of what I do comes through a trauma-informed lens. I support folks who are trying to become pregnant, folks who are pregnant and going to give birth. I support folks who have given birth in the postpartum experience, and wanted to come on here and to talk about our wombs and our uterine health because there's a lot of things that I have learned over my years of studying and being a doula. I was always that child who was super curious about reproductive health and well-being. I would sit next to my mom breastfeeding a baby doll, pretending that, I was breastfeeding. And then as I grew older, the women around my family and in my friend groups had these experiences that were not okay. I'm like, we shouldn't be treated like this. Doctors shouldn't be talking to us like this. We should know what questions to ask and how to advocate for ourselves. And a lot of that I attribute to the shame around women's bodies. And I say women meaning anybody who identifies as a woman. So let's make that very clear. But in particular for folks who have a uterus, there's a lot of shame around bleeding. A lot of shame around the changes that our bodies go through when we are pregnant or trying to become pregnant or after people have babies, or even just as women grow and mature and become older, our bodies change and shift, and that's okay. But if we know how to ask questions, if we understand ourselves, then we can better advocate for ourselves. So I wanted to get on here. I have also been studying under Kelly Garza. Shout out to Kelly. She's awesome. The mastermind behind Steamy Chick and learning how to do peri-steam facilitation. And I am supportive of it because I had an experience with my own periods where I was like, something feels off. Like, I don't think I'm in tune with my lady parts. And we're not speaking the same language. And I'm a bilingual person, so I speak Spanish and English. And language is really important to me. When we understand a mutual vocabulary and then we can understand what other people are saying to us and we can relate back to them. So I was like, you know what? My womb has a language. I need to learn it. I don't think I'm very fluent in my womb. And so today I want to challenge everyone to become fluent in your own body language. Like I said, part of why I was not fluent was because of the shame around my body and what I understood it to do or what I thought it was supposed to look like, how I thought it was supposed to act. And part of me becoming fluent in my body's language was allowing it the grace and the space to do what it does. So understanding the symptoms and signs of my body. But first I had to start with what even is in my anatomy? Like, what are all the body parts? And people share those, in the sex ed class, but I wasn't paying attention in that class. And I didn't understand the importance of knowing my body for myself at that time in my life. So as I became an adult, as I became a doula, as I navigated birth spaces with my clients, a lot of times we had to go back to the basics. Like, let's understand your anatomy. Do you know what your vulva looks like? Do you know what your vagina looks like? Do you know that your vagina and your cervix and your uterus are different parts of your anatomy? That is all important. And so I would challenge folks first to know your anatomy. I also come from teacher parents. So I want to make sure everybody has some takeaways. So at the end of this, I'm going to ask you 3 things, but please also be sure to drop questions, drop comments, all of that good stuff. But so the first part about language was getting the vocabulary down, right? Like understanding the vagina, the vulva, the cervix, what your uterus is, or your womb, understanding your ovaries and how they function. And so If you don't know what yours looks like, I challenge you, go take a mirror, go look down there. She's yours. So you want to know what she looks like. And you want to understand when there are changes that happen throughout your lifetime or even during your cycle so that you can advocate for yourself. If you don't know what your typical or your norm or your like homeostatic version is of your body, you won't be able to advocate for yourself when those changes are coming around as well. So I want to make sure that you know yourself. So I had to learn myself. I had to understand like, oh, okay, I think I'm feeling an ovulate, like I think I'm ovulating, or what's called Mittelschmerz. It's a German word. It basically means that some people can actually tell when they are ovulating on which side or what it feels like. Those pains used to scare me. I'd be like, oh no, what's going on? I'm not sure what this is. It's normal. But I didn't know it was normal because who tells you that you should feel or can feel at times when you're ovulating? So things like that, being able to understand, okay, that pain is because my ovaries are located here and I can feel it on this side of my body. I know that my ovaries are connected to the fallopian tube, which is connected to my uterus, which at the bottom has a cervix, which connects to the vagina. Like understanding all of that was very helpful for me. So I encourage you to do that. Know your anatomy. The second part is to know the physiology. So I'm a birth nerd, and so I love learning. I love like the information about it, and I love the terminology. And so I took this anatomy and physiology class and recognized that anatomy is physically how things are set up, but the physiology is how they work. And we have to be able to know both. It's like if you get a dictionary and you just read the word Grand Rising, hello Imani, you get the word, but you don't understand how to use it. And so if I have a word and a bunch of words in a dictionary, that's great. Now I'm informed. But if I don't know the full definition or how to apply it in a sentence, then what am I doing? I just got a bunch of words. So we had to learn the physiology, and the physiology is how your body functions. So understanding that there are all these hormones that play a role in how our body functions was also important for me, because the hormones are like the little keys that make things function the way that they do. And so understanding that like your ovaries are where the eggs are held, and that's with estrogen, which is a hormone that we're going to talk about in a little bit. But with estrogen, your ovaries can help to develop an egg, and that egg is what trips down into the fallopian tube, down into your uterus. And if your uterus is prepared, meaning there's an endometrium lining, which is what we shed when we have a menstrual cycle, if there are the right sort of, if it's the right climate, then that egg, if there is sperm to fertilize it, will then implant into your endometrium lining, into your uterus, and then you can grow a baby. Now, I knew basically like you get your period because you're not pregnant, but understanding that once again, the anatomy and the physiology, so the form and the function, helped me to put the pieces together and understand the importance of, okay, at this point in the month, here's what's going on. So when my estrogen levels are higher, I'm feeling good, my breasts feel kind of full, I got this glow. I'm like, yeah, girl, we're good. And then as I start to dip, I feel this difference of like, oh, okay, I'm kind of moody, I'm getting sort of crampy, my progesterone levels are dipping or rising. Well, they'll be rising, but understanding like how I was feeling was important, but then I was able to connect it to what was going on in my body and being equipped to say, okay, at this point in the month, I see these things happening pretty consistently. Let me start to figure out why this is happening. And so I just want to encourage everyone else to also be able to know your anatomy, know your physiology, because when you have the form and function, you can connect those dots. And like I said, when you can connect the dots for yourself, when you can speak that language fluently, you can advocate for yourself. So back to knowing your personal language. So I mentioned estrogen. There's also progesterone. Now, these are two out of a plethora of hormones. And like I said, I've been studying under Kelly Garza with Steamy Chick, shout out to her, and helping me to understand some of the ways to keep my womb happy. So we'll get there in a minute. But when you are able to track those changes, those shifts, what's going on in your body, it's more helpful because then you can bring some data in. So because I had noticed like, well, I kind of see this thing happening at this point in the time, and like I'm craving salty foods or sugary foods, and then, oh, well, I was really moody this time and kind of cranky and tired this next, and 2 months later, I was able to go to my doctor and say, hey, I see these things happening. Is this normal? Is this not normal? Now, I am a kind of person who prefers as little medical intervention as possible, but I support folks who do all of it. So I have some clients who are like, I felt up the twinge, I'm going to the doctor. And I have other people who are like, it's fine, I'll drink some tea, I'll get a heating pad, we'll see how it goes. So I kind of fall somewhere in the middle of that spectrum. If I notice things are consistently not what I'd like them to be, then I want to go find some help. For me, help means I'm going to go see what alternatives there are to medicine, to like traditional, to Western medicine, and I'm going to see if Western medicine can support. So in my case, my doctor was like, oh, I mean, you could go on birth control if you want, or we can do da-da-da-da. And I was like, well, that seems extreme, because I understand with my hormones, like they're very sensitive and I don't want to impact them unnecessarily. So let's see what we can do instead. And that is how I found Veronica. Shout out to Loren. But Veronica is my my vaginal stemist. And she's the person who introduced me to the experience. And when I met Veronica, my periods were very irregular. Well, not irregular. They were regular, but the symptoms were becoming more irregular in how I was experiencing them, and I wasn't comfortable. And basically, if you don't like what's happening, you can advocate for yourself and you can create a change. And I tell this to my clients. If somebody's on your birth team and you don't like them, get them off your birth team. If somebody is, in your space and you don't want that, you have the right to say, no, thank you. You can go. And so the same thing is true, like with knowing your own body and knowing your own language. I was like, there's some sort of discrepancy. We need to address this. Anyway, so I met Veronica. She helped me get my first steam. And the experience at first was like, oh, what is this? But I knew that I wanted to try something that was not traditionally like Western medicine to support my womb health, because something was off. So anyways, went to Veronica, had my steam, and within 2 steams and within 3 cycles, I was back to what I considered my homeostasis. And so I was like, I'm going to make this part of my regular routine. And that was part of how I determined like what my personal body language is, and understanding that if my body is off and feeling kind of like, something's going on. As a social worker, I'm always like, holistically, how can we understand this? So there's probably some sort of outside factor that's impacting how I'm feeling, what's going on in my world, how I'm experiencing life. There's also internal factors, emotionally internal and physically internal. And so I chose to address the physically internal factors with the steam, the emotionally internal factors by figuring out, okay, in my therapeutic journey, what's going on in my world? Why is my body feeling this way? It is a privilege to take that time and space, but I also would contend that it is a necessary thing. And so it doesn't look like everybody gets a 45-minute therapy session every week. Sometimes it means that you take 5 minutes when you got to go to the bathroom and just sit with yourself and say, self, how we doing? And self can tell you how you're doing. But it's different for everyone, and I encourage you to figure out what that is for you. So anywho's, lots that I'm sharing. If you have a question, please feel free to drop it in the chat. Anything that you'd want to add. I see some fellow steamers and fellow doulas, so thank you for joining us. For those who have just joined, my name is Doula Leah. I am the doula behind Sweet Bee Services, and I help people with female reproductive systems navigate their unique journeys through education and empowerment. And so today we're talking about knowing and supporting your womb. Like I shared earlier, I use womb and uterus interchangeably, but I recognize that not all women have a womb, and not all people with a womb identify as women. I am speaking to those who do identify as a woman and to those who do have a womb. So, or had one and had it removed, all that fun stuff. So we're talking about knowing your personal body language, and that's important because when our womb is speaking to us, we have to understand what she's saying or what they're saying. And so I also wanted to talk about like the bleeding process a bit, because a lot of times for my clients who are either trying to conceive or are on the postpartum side, they're trying to figure out, what should this look like? How should this feel? Like there's some sort of inconsistency with the way that their body sheds the lining. And so I talked a little earlier about knowing your anatomy and knowing your physiology. Your anatomy is the form, or like how your body is structured, but the physiology is the function and how it tends to work. And everybody typically has, anatomy. We can figure that out. We can look at a picture, a cutout, or whatever, and it's pretty standard. But if it is, or I'm gonna get to your question, Black Book Mag. If it is a matter of the function, then that varies from person to person. So we have a question that says, what if your vagina is like super sensitive? Would you recommend steaming still? I do. Now, the thing to note is that there are different blends of herbs, and so depending on what is going to be the best indication for you, that's how you should determine which herbs to use. And your vaginal steamist, your herbalist, will have a good combination for you. Usually if somebody's super, super sensitive, we would just start with water, because water itself is such a healing element. It can help to increase the blood flow to that part of your body. It can help to relax you, and it can also help to get your body prepared for just getting some additional support. If over time you can tell that, like, okay, the steam does well just with water, we can add in herbs. There's a gentle mix, and you can do one at a time, even to make sure you don't have allergies to anything. So definitely still recommend it. I have some people who are like, no, I don't want any steam. Like, it's an uncomfortable experience, or people who have had certain traumatic experiences, especially with their pelvic area. I fully understand that, and I fully respect that. And so another alternative might be a sitz bath. And a sitz bath is typically an herbal bath that somebody can take where the water doesn't hit any higher than their hips. You can do it with like basically brewing a big pot of tea for yourself, or you can also add in like Epsom salt with lavender, which would be a really nice alternative. If you're super, super sensitive, you may only want a little bit of apple cider vinegar in the water, and that might be an alternative. I also often recommend that for clients who might have like a yeast infection or BV, or just need some sort of calming release after birth, but we don't want to introduce a bunch of herbs just yet. A little bit of apple cider vinegar in a warm bath, not hot. And sometimes you need it cool, especially if you're postpartum and you had, you're just a few days or hours after labor. Cooling water might be nice, but that would be my recommendation. So thank you for your question. So I was talking about understanding your function. And so there are some really important, probably like 3 or 4 things that I think are really important for everybody to know in order to support your womb health and well-being. Number 1 is you want to know how long your cycle is. And so not everybody, fun fact, not everybody has a 28-day cycle. Some people have a 35-day cycle. Some people have a 24-day cycle. The typical range that we would like to see for like what is considered norm in the field is about 28 to 32 days. But some people go 35, and that's just how they are. That's just genetic. That's just their body. Other people are less, and that's also genetic. That's their body. But sometimes when we see folks outside of that range, we can provide support to help their bodies come back into that range. And that can mean, for some people, lengthening their period, which period meaning the menstrual cycle period, not just the bleeding time, but from the first bleed to the next bleed, lengthening that amount of time or shortening that amount of time if that's necessary. We have a question. Let's see. Hi, can you give insight on premature ovarian failure after bone marrow transplant and usage of an IUD? Do you remove or keep it? Thank you so much for your question, Chrissy. So let's put this out there. I am not a medical provider. I do not provide medical information. I help people to understand the best options for them. I do not have any insight on premature ovarian failure after bone marrow transplant. I do have clients who use IUDs, and so we've talked about, hey Tracy, we have talked about the pros and cons of an IUD. I would definitely recommend that if you are interested in finding support for like trying to conceive or pregnancy or even postpartum, that you talk with your doctor, but also create the support team that you want. So getting a fertility or a full spectrum doula. Let me know if you want some support. I do a lot of research, so we could also figure out what's going on. But definitely getting a full spectrum or fertility doula in addition to your doctor and or a midwife would be the best way to figure out how to address your support needs from a well-rounded perspective. Like I said, I do have folks who have IUDs, and so we talk about pros and cons, the type of birth control that they want to be using, and how it impacts their body, because birth control is meant to regulate our hormones, specifically estrogen and progesterone, so that our bodies are in a space that can be controlled with medicine. But it's a really great question. And I think it speaks to the fact that there's so much about our bodies and about medicine that is still unknown. And that's why it's important for us to be the most well-versed in ourselves so that we can advocate for ourselves. Yes. So thank you so much for your question, Chrissy. Do fertility doulas help with men? Absolutely. So a lot of times when I'm working with clients who are trying to conceive, we talk about everything. We talk about how is the male partner, how is the female partner, what practices are going on in terms of food, exercise, any previous histories of trauma, any previous medical conditions. We also talk about like sex and all the fun stuff, making sure sex is not just trying to conceive. But I would suggest that any fertility doula should work with both partners. I come from a family-centered perspective, and so I tell all my clients, my definition of family means the people that you want to be around you and the people who are part of your support system. So if that means partners, grandparents, family, friends, baby cousin, pumpkin, and them, that's fine. That's who you want to be around you. That's who's in your circle. And we want to make sure that they're included as well. Oh, congratulations. Oh, you're coming up then. If you're currently pregnant and due on the 21st, your baby is going to be here. Also, it's an expected due date. So allow your body to do what it needs to do. Allow your baby to do what they need to do. Let you all work together, and your baby will be here when they should be here. So congrats to you. So keep dropping your questions. Thank you for joining me. Anybody who just plugged in, my name is Doula Leah. Hey, Emmett. And I support folks. I help people who are trying to navigate their unique reproductive journeys through education and empowerment. I am the doula behind Sweet Bee Services. I am a full spectrum doula. I'm a placental encapsulator. I'm a breastfeeding specialist. I am a trained social worker. There's so many things that I love to do because I love reproductive systems and making sure that people know how to advocate for themselves as we navigate this Western medical system. So thank you so much for being here. Let's see, you said unassisted. Okay, listen, I support folks who make decisions autonomously and do what they want to do. I'm here for it. I always recommend that if you feel uncomfortable at any point, that you have somebody who is medically trained to provide support, like a midwife, and, enjoy your process. Your body knows what it's doing. Your baby knows what it's doing. Like I said, if you're well-versed in your body language, you're going to know if something's off, and you're going to know to go get help, and you're going to know if you feel fine and like you're just waiting on this baby. So I say do what you need to do. Like I said, I do not provide medical information. I am not a medically trained doctor. I never claim to be one. So I always put that disclaimer out to my clients. However, I help people navigate their unique journeys and to make sure they have the best options for themselves. So there's that part. Let's see. Yeah, what else? Oh, let's see. Asia. Oh, Asia, that's excellent. So she just said she is 9 weeks pregnant. She would like to have a water home birth. How should she go about getting started? So Asia, I would recommend that you get a doula who has experience in home births, get a midwife who will support your home birth, and figure out, then they can help you to figure out where in your home you'll give birth, what's going on. They'll also help you to make sure that you are within the thresholds for what is classified as a low-risk birth so that you can have a home birth without any sort of medical intervention. But congratulations. I also say, I tell my clients in the first trimester, go to your dentist because you want to make sure that your oral health is doing really well. It's a little known. It's well known in the birth world, but little known for folks when they are first conceiving. But you want to make sure that you have good oral health because we don't want anything like a blood clot or any sort of thing traveling through your body unnecessarily. Also, things shift when you're pregnant. Your nose shifts, your hips shift, your teeth shift, your feet. So just get checked out. But thank you so much for joining us and congratulations. We are super excited for you. So definitely, Asia, I would say get yourself a doula. get yourself a midwife, and I hope that you have an incredible home birth. Yeah. So I was talking about knowing and supporting your womb, your uterus. I'm using those terms interchangeably. This is for people who have a womb and want to care for it, or for folks who are like, I have one, but like they just do what they do. I don't know. I kind of guess and then I like get a period. I don't want you just guessing. I want you to be empowered and to realize like, okay, here's what my body is doing. I'm feeling it. I understand it. So one of the things I said to look out for was the number of days between your first bleed and your next bleed. Not everybody is 28. Some people are 35. Some people are 21. But if yours is outside of that quote unquote normal scope between 28 and 32 days, there are ways to help either lengthen or shorten it. Also, you want to look for color. So I have a lot of folks who are like, oh, I just go change the pad real quick. I'm like, okay, that's fine. We should not be scared of the color of the blood that's coming out of our bodies. One, because it's coming out of our bodies. And two, because it tells us a lot about how our body is doing. For instance, if it's brown, that means that there's some older lining that's still coming out. If it's bright red, that's fresh blood. That means it's shedding pretty well. Like fresh red or like cranberry red. Some people clot, some people don't clot. And so you want to be able to track these things and track the changes because you want to be able to tell when something is off. You want to know, and it's like, you know what? This was a little different this month. And I use an app because I'm the queen of apps. I think it just makes my life easier. I really love the Clue app. I have clients who use Flow. There's a way to do it on paper. Actually, you could use an old school old school calendar. Absolutely. And just put a red dot when you're bleeding or spotting, which is, we know what spotting is. It's not that much blood. Or like make a note of like clotting. I like my app because it also tracks my exercise, if there was like my mood, how much sleep I got, what I wanted to crave, like my cravings or what I ate that day, how much water I'm getting. So all of these are important to track because you can also then look back and say, oh, I think I've been really wanting chips and salsa for the last 3 days. I'm craving salty things. Let's figure out what my body needs. And for me, that's been really helpful because then I can determine, I'm probably not drinking enough water, or if I want really sugary things, I'm probably tired and I'm not giving my body the space it needs to rest. So those are important. So you want to look at the number of days between your first bleed and the next bleed. You want to look at the color and size of the bleeding. You also, like I said, want to look at your symptoms. So being mindful of the fact that our bodies need rest. People with a uterus, we do a lot of work. And just shout out to us because society will not shout out to us. So we need to do it for ourselves. We do a lot of work. Our womb does a lot of work trying to prepare to have a baby each month, even if we're not trying to conceive consciously, and then shedding of that lining. It takes a lot of blood. It takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot out of us. And so we need to be eating enough to give it the energy to do that. But we don't think about that regularly. I know, especially like this week, it's Black Maternal Health Week. So I'm like, who's doing what? I want to be on this Zoom session. I need to attend to clients. I also work another job. I don't have time for a nap every day. Like I really wanted to take a bath and I said, okay, maybe I could get like 20 minutes to just sit. But that's a rarity. And so being able to, oh, you're so welcome. Thank you. I'm a doula mentor. So if you want, some support, just reach out. Sweet Bee Services. Being able to take the time and space to rest on your period or before your period, honestly, is difficult, but very important. And so I highly recommend if you can, and Kelly Garza, Steamy Chick, taught me this, that if you can like block off those 4 to 7 days that you're bleeding of like, this is me time. This is a space where I'm just going to rest. I can't really see people. I need to honor my body. That allows you to maintain that fluency with yourself and your body language, but also you really do feel better. I promise you. The times where I'm like, I need a nap. It's a little meme about the child like, did you get a nap today? No, I did not. Naps are good for adults. They're not just good for babies. And so I have learned to create in my schedule when I can space to either take a nap or to sit and scroll on Instagram guilt-free, or to, because as a business owner, I'm like, okay, I got to post this. I'm going to make sure people know what's going on. But sometimes you just need to sit and be. Just be. So yeah, fun fact. So yeah, definitely know the number of days between your first and your last bleed. Recognize the color of your bleeding and any clots, things like that. And know your symptoms. Know that you need to rest. Know that you need more water. Know that you might need tea. I tell everybody with a uterus, drink red raspberry leaf tea. You could get, I have preferred tea providers because they're Black owned tea providers. And so I like to order their blends that include red raspberry leaf tea, as well as like nettle leaf or dandelion root or chamomile, any herb that's really great for relaxing and helping our uterine muscle to be toned so that it can shed. But you could also find it in the grocery store. You could get it on Amazon. Sometimes I get a big bag of like 100 tea bags, and I just pop some in a cup with some lime and honey, because the lime just tastes great to me, and drink that. And that is part of my water intake for the day. It allows me to have like a restful close to the day, and allows me to care for my uterus. And sis is like, thank you. I appreciate you looking out for me. Oh yeah, definitely. Let me post them. I'll tag the businesses that I support. And there's some questions. I'd love to take your questions. I could talk all day because I have a lot of information. I've been studying these things for many years. So please stop me and interject. Beautiful Jazzy, beautiful, said, thank you so much for this. I'm currently in classes to become a doula, and you're giving lots of, oh, thank you. Listen, all the information. Kreiner Alexa said, what is a good doula school that you would recommend? Ooh, well, I'm a part of National Black Doula Association because it's dope. So you can definitely train with National Black Doula Association. I know Tracy has a bunch of trainings coming up, so make sure you sign up. I trained with Ancient Song Doula Services in Brooklyn, New York. Shout out to Chanel. And this is actually my doula-versary month. So I've been a doula for 5 years, and it feels like forever and no time at all. It's wonderful. But definitely would recommend Ancient Song. I am very intentional about training to support the Black community. As a Black woman, that was important to me, and I got into being a doula specifically for us. So Black and brown folks, because I'm Afro-Latina, but basically for Black people. And so I wanted to make sure that I trained with people who had that lens. There are lots of great doula organizations. I am biased, so National Black Doulas Association, Ancient Song, but also just reach out to doulas in the community and ask them where they're trained and what their experience is, because everyone has different experiences. And some folks should be full spectrum doulas. Some folks really prefer postpartum work or fertility support or birth and labor. So you could find the niche that's best for you. But I highly recommend that no matter where you train, you find a doula mentor who can help you really get ingrained in the process. I launched my program because I was like, there's a lot that I learned even in the first 6 months of being a doula. Like at this point, I've supported over 40 families while working another job. And so that was a specific type of doula work that I didn't see anyone else doing. Now that I've gotten into the field and like working with other colleagues, I recognize that there are folks who do exactly what I do, and we have to find a balance. I'm like, okay, let me find my doula tribe and talk about, oh, I'm so tired and I got to turn in all these reports for work, but I have a client who's in labor, so we're just going to go to the labor and the rest of the world is going to have to figure it out. Thankfully, my job has been flexible with that, but not everybody's is. And so having your doula tribe is key, no matter where you train. But let me link these T spots. Let's see. I've been told since I was young that I have PCOS. How do I get that under control as my periods are unpredictable? Is there a certain blend of herbs for a steam for someone with PCOS? So I actually have I believe I put up on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel, Sweet Bee Services, and I did an interview with a friend who has PCOS. A lot of people, polycystic ovarian syndrome is what PCOS is, and it's a hormonal imbalance. A lot of women have it, and actually a lot of people are not diagnosed until late in the game because doctors were not trained to look for it for the most part early on when I was first starting in birth work. But there are lots of ways to help to balance your hormones and support becoming pregnant and or just having a healthy uterus with PCOS. So follow Sweet Bee Services. You can find me on YouTube, clearly on Instagram, Facebook, but also just shoot me a message and let me know that you put this question here, and I'm happy to send you resources. But there's a whole lot you can do for PCOS. Actually, I have a couple books that I love. Not a couple. I lied. I'm a bibliophile. I have so many books in my house. It's kind of ridiculous. But one that I recommend for everyone is, I don't know if you can read it here, but Taking Charge of Your Fertility by Toni Wexler. I'll also try to link that. Y'all got me multitasking. But this was very helpful in understanding how my hormones function, understanding my anatomy, taking out the shame from all of it, understanding cervical fluid. That's another thing. Like, our discharge is so important, and we are ashamed to think like, oh, your vagina smells, your discharge smells, what's going on? No, there's a normal vaginal smell for discharge. It's healthy. It means your uterus is doing what it should do. It means your vagina is doing what it should do. But it also changes throughout your cycle. And so you can tell when you are more fertile because your cervical fluid will look like an egg white. Or you can tell when you're less fertile because it'll be creamy like lotion. Or almost like if you melt shea butter on your hands, it'll look like that. You can also tell if your vagina is doing a lot of work to maintain its pH or to cleanse itself because your discharge will change in color or smell. Anyways, let me get this tea to y'all. I cannot lie. I am a coffee drinker. I love coffee. I was raised on it. But I do enjoy a cup of tea, especially when I know it's to benefit my body. So I will drink tea. Usually the week before my cycle, I'll drink stronger cups of red raspberry leaf tea. And then the week of my cycle, I just drink it as I need to. And it has really helped with my cycle regularities. Let me get these teas to you. So the two folks that I love to get tea from are STS Comforts and Nutmeg's Wellness Teas LLC, because they are women-owned businesses. I know both of them, and they're phenomenal, so I trust their judgment. Let's see. Oh yeah, Ancient Song is the best, and National Black Doula Association, because I wouldn't have joined if I didn't trust them. If your pap keeps coming back irregular, they suggest freezing my cervix, and I know my mom struggled with 5 stillbirths before she could even have me and any sister. Okay, so thank you for sharing that, firstly, because that's important. Hey girl, hey. Secondly, like I tell everybody, I do not provide medical information and like suggestions. I help people navigate their own experience and to make sure that they're informed while they navigate it. So definitely would say we need to probably ask some more questions, and I have a rather in-depth questionnaire that I ask when I do wellness consultations to figure out, okay, what are we eating? What are we drinking? What's your exercise like? How are you sleeping? What medications and vitamins are you taking? How long has this been going on? I'm so glad you mentioned your mom, because I often will ask, like, what was your experience for your mother, if you know, or other women in your family? Even on your father's side, like, that's all important. So I don't necessarily have an answer for you right now, Alexis, but I would love to connect with you and to see if there's a way we can do some more research and figure out what's the best option for you. Because I definitely believe in personalized support. That's why I became a doula. Yeah, please do. Yes, Britt, I tell everybody, because what we're not going to do is have somebody call me like, Leah is not a doctor. Now, Leah does have her master's in social work, and I worked hard for that, and I will always stand by that. Leah worked hard to become a doula, and I continually am working on my craft, but I am not a medically trained professional. Yeah, please do. I want to talk to you. And so I make that explicitly clear. I appreciate medical professionals, and I love learning from them. I love working with them. I really am a birth nerd. So, like, when I was 2, my mom caught me in one of her, like, old biology books. She goes, girl, what are you doing? She tells me this story all the time. I was looking at a woman giving birth. Like, this has just been an innate desire and interest and passion for me literally since the womb. So, anywho's, girl, yes, girl, that's right. Yeah, so I love what I do. For many years, I did not know that I could be a doula. I didn't know that Black doulas existed, first off, even though we were the original doulas. It started in our communities. I also didn't know how to like become a doula. I didn't know what the path was, what the training was. I just knew I wanted to support women in vulnerable situations, and especially when it came to bringing life into this world, because it's such a beautiful transition when we have the support around us that's necessary. And as I grew as a birth doula, I realized there's so much more to our reproductive wellness that's needed and necessary. We need advocates, but we need people who can remind us, like, you can speak up for yourself. You know how to do this. You know what you want. Let's make it happen. And so having that person in your corner that's the perspective I like to take as a doula, but it is so crucial to every aspect and every step of our reproductive health journey. So we have a couple more questions. Thanks for bearing with me, y'all, as I figure out how to do all this. Talk to you, Asia. Let's see. And then, can you recommend vitamins that women should be taking to support their wombs? Absolutely. My sister laughs with me because she's like, girl, you got an apothecary in your bedroom. I do. I believe in some vitamins because I would rather take vitamins now than me taking a bunch of medications later in my life if I can help it. But I recognize that that's not the case for everybody, and that's fine. You got to do what works for you. I take a women's multivitamin that includes vitamin B and vitamin B6 and vitamin D, because especially for Black folks, we need to break that stigma. But I love sitting in the sun. I don't care how dark I get in the summer. Like, let my melanin shine, okay? But we need to be able to let ourselves get more sunshine, because it takes the sun a little bit longer to get through the melanin. Thank God for protection. And we tend to have vitamin D deficiencies. So I take a little bit more than the regular recommended whatever. Talk to your own medical team to figure out what you need to take, but definitely like a multivitamin with vitamin B6 and vitamin D. I also take like biotin, and an omega-3 because you need the fatty acids. I don't always eat fish the way that I should, and not everybody eats fish, so that's one way that I make sure I'm getting what my body needs. But I would definitely say for your womb health, you want to make sure that you are getting iron because of the blood that's going there and helping it to work efficiently. You want to make sure that you are eating your iron sources mostly, not just taking a pill, because oftentimes if we take an iron pill that's too high, leads to constipation. We could balance all that out by eating spinach and kale and rice and beans. I follow a nutritionist who recently was like, let's stop discriminating against foods just because they don't fit the like white Eurocentric definition of healthy, and I fully stand by that. I'm Caribbean. I love me some oxtail and curry goat and whatnot, but also I got to find the balance. So I don't always need curry goat. Sometimes if I do, I'm like, oh, my body needs some iron, because clearly I'm craving a red meat and I don't eat that often. But I typically will have like a curried lentil or a curried chickpea along with some rice. Rice is good. Rice is healthy. Like, let's stop hating on rice. Now, I don't need to eat rice every day, and I know how my body feels when I do or do not eat it, but that's besides the point. Definitely making sure that you get like a good healthy balance of omega-3s and iron and folate. Those are all important. There are particular brands actually of prenatals that I recommend. So if you shoot me a message, I can also try to tag it here, but I like Pink Stork for my clients. I take Ollie personally, and I also have clients who take Smarty Pants. And Pink Stork and Smarty Pants are like two that I highly recommend because they've been good for my clients. So that's it on vitamins. Like I said, I do not provide medical information, diagnoses, none of that. I just help people figure out the best options for them. What'd she say? That's right, protection and work. Yes, for the Caribbean, all my Caribbean folks. Let's see. This says, thank you for answering my question. I'm a pescatarian, so I'm trying to make sure I get the correct nutrients. Excellent to support a healthy womb, even though I'm not pregnant yet. Yeah, absolutely. Pescatarians, listen, the body can conceive when it's feeling good. So definitely pescatarians can get what they need. If you are finding though that like your iron is not as high, or like you're feeling anemic, then I just encourage you to increase, like I said, kale, spinach, bok choy, Swiss chard, any of those dark leafy greens, and to not overcook them. I often will tell my clients to make a smoothie with dates. Dates are very good for helping to ripen your cervix and your uterus, but they're also great for fiber. Love you too, girl. I do. And so that fiber helps move through your system and keep you clear. But yeah, definitely make sure that you're talking with your medical providers about your dietary habits, and if there's anything that's concerning to you, like, talk to them. I like working with my esthetician is a holistic nutritionist, and that was really helpful for me because she's able to say, okay, I can see, like, oh, I typically get like chin breakouts, and she's like, oh, that's a hormonal breakout, I need you to do da 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 da, and I did da 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 da, and I was like, oh, this really works. So finding people who can help you figure out what's personalized to you is going to be very key. Yeah, exactly. Caribbean. Woo-woo. And dates. Dates are so wonderful. So I have to let y'all in on a secret. I'm not a fan of the taste and texture of dates. However, I get a bag of like pre-chopped diced dates and I just sneak those into my smoothie. That is a great way to still get the nutrients of something without having to be like, oh, I can't do it. And so finding what works for you is really great. Anywho's, we're getting on so many fun topics. I literally could talk on these things for hours. I am a birth nerd. Let me see what else I wanted you to know. Any other questions? Oh, great. Yes, chin breakouts. So detoxing is really helpful for chin breakouts. I spent quite a bit of time like getting over my sugar cravings and making sure I was getting enough protein, because typically if our body is craving sugar, it's because we want energy, and really what we need is protein, so that with healthy fats and carbs, so that it lasts longer, digests well. So that was helpful for me. I also had to switch to pH water, which I just bought a filter on Amazon and like stick that in the fridge. And every once in a while I get my little Essentia bottles, but Trader Joe's or anywhere that you shop, you can also find pH water, and that helps my body tremendously as well. Yeah, any other questions? I shared quite a bit today. For anyone who just popped on, my name is Doula Leah. I am a full spectrum doula, and I help people with female reproductive systems navigate their unique journeys through education and empowerment. And today I was talking about knowing and supporting your womb. I use womb and uterus interchangeably, and I recognize that we're talking about folks who have a uterus, don't all identify as women, but I'm talking to people who have a uterus and are caring for theirs. Oh, we got a request to come in live. I'm gonna try this. Yeah, it'll definitely be saved, so don't worry. And dates are a great substitute for sugar. Let's see if Victoria comes in. Yeah, the live will be saved. I also have it. I'll have it saved on my Instagram as well. Sweet Bee Services. Sweet Bee, sweet because I tend to be sweet like sugar, but bee because I name my services after the birds and the bees, and understanding that process better, and understanding also how to have people have sweet transitions as they navigate their own reproductive health journeys. You can find me on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. I am Sweet Bee Doula. My website is sweetbeedoula.com. I'm on YouTube, and I am based in the Baltimore, Maryland area, but I do travel. So I have supported over 40 births between New York, North Carolina. I'll be headed back out to Tennessee for a birth in a couple weeks. I'm a full spectrum doula, a placental encapsulator, childbirth education is included in my services, but a certified breastfeeding specialist. I am a trained social worker, bilingual, peri-STEAM facilitator in training, and a doula mentor. So any questions? Let's see. You're a mess. Thank you so much. Love you. Thank you, Kristen. Yeah. Anything else? We got about 10 more minutes. Oh, that's fine. We'll definitely be saving it. You'll get all the information. Let's see. I don't know if somebody wanted to come live or not. Oh, I absolutely do not mind sharing. So someone asked, where did your, hi, I'm sorry, were you trying to come on? Maybe not. Hello? Okay, no, they're not. So, someone asked, where did my doula journey begin? And my learning, my training, if I don't mind sharing. Thank you, y'all. I love the support. We appreciate it. I can definitely tell you more about my mentoring services too. So, I was that child. I'm the oldest of four, and so I sat next to my mom, like pretending to breastfeed my own baby dolls when I was like 2. Hey, Kim. Kimberly Renee is the owner of STS Comforts Teas, so be sure you follow her and check her out. So yeah, I pretend to breastfeed, or like anytime we played pretend, I was pregnant or like had just given birth and needed support. And so the fact that I am now a birth worker who supports folks in emotionally vulnerable places just is so aligned with who I am. I'm a trained social worker, and when I was going through social work school, one of my colleagues was finishing her training. And so I was like, how can I become a Black doula too? Because it makes sense. I need to do this. So I trained with Ancient Song Doula Services in Brooklyn, New York under Chanel Albert. And our focus was on advocacy. And that has really played a role into who I am, but also how I support clients. And so I've been a doula for 5 years. This April, actually next week will be Friday. Tomorrow is my doula anniversary. So super, super excited. I've served over 40 families. And I encourage anybody who's interested in being a doula, like please reach out to me. I'd love to connect with you. I love to share my journey with folks. Let's see, what else did you ask about? That's excellent. Yeah, and the thing about being a doula, and I think what makes great doulas, is that we are continually learning. So I and my doula tribe are always, shout out to Mama Glow. They're another great one. A friend of mine just finished their training, actually. And great doulas are constantly learning, because the field and how to support clients, in my opinion, is always shifting. And I learn something from every baby, from every client, from every encounter. And then I use that as I continue. So I have a mentorship program. You can actually go to my Instagram, Sweet Bee Services. Let me put myself here. I didn't even pin that. And you can schedule a consultation with me to figure out if you'd like to work with me. Forgive me, I can't type and talk at the same time. There we go, Sweet Bee Services. So I'll pin that right there. And so then that way we start working. So my support is a 12-month program, because I wanted to be very intentional in creating the experience that I wish I had finishing my doula training. I actually finished my training in April of 2016, and then completed my master's in social work at Columbia University in New York, and then moved back to Baltimore. So I had to kind of like start from scratch when I got down here. And I wanted to be able to talk to somebody on a regular basis. So my mentees can reach out. We have a 30-minute session every week, but they can also text me, call me anytime. My mentees get access to births through me. I have supported home births, hospital births, and like everything in between. So we talk about all that, how to create your doula business if that's something you want to do, but also being very intentional in the curriculum in terms of what we're reading and how we're walking along the curriculum, so that we are having a well-rounded experience. So I would love to I also just love to talk to folks. I have a doula meetup that is the first Saturday of every quarter. So we'll be gathering in, what is that? May, I believe. Go on my link tree, y'all. I can't remember all the dates, but if you go to my Instagram, on my link tree, there's a link for the doula meetup. I'm also launching a book club, which is designed to help aspiring doulas finish all of their book requirements in community. Because I was like, I'm reading these books, but I want to talk to somebody. Like, how are you feeling about this? So it's designed for that. It's designed for current doulas to just stay abreast of, the readings, because we get really used to being in the practice, but it's always great to go back and review what we read at the beginning. And then it's also designed for anybody who's curious. Like, I tell my clients to read the same books that I read, because they should be informed. So you're welcome to join our book club. It's free. It'll be on April 24th at 10 a.m. click on my Instagram and you'll be able to find all of the links and dates for what's going on at Sweet Bee Services. So yeah, let me read some more comments. Let's see. Train with Mama Glow. Yes, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Sweet Bee Services. I have a YouTube channel. Go check out my video. I also talk about my doula journey there. Talk about menstrual products that I appreciate and use. Talk about an interview with clients. I also have interviews with clients. One of my moms had a home birth and it was a VBAC 3. So a VBAC is a vaginal birth after cesarean. She had 3 cesareans and then had a successful home birth. So we talk about what that experience was like. That's on my Instagram highlights. My Instagram is pinned. Thanks for bearing with me, y'all. I did that a little later in the game, but would love to connect with anyone. And I will definitely be pinning these, saving these lives. Thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciated you. Yeah. Anything else before we head off? Oh yeah, I'll talk about mentoring, Britt. So, what would you like to know? Okay, so I provide a 12-month mentoring program, and it's because, yay, thank you. It's because I want to make sure that I'm really intentional in providing for my mentees what I wish I would have had when I was starting off as a doula. And so we talk about building your doula business. We talk about creating space for self-care because this is taxing work. It is incredibly rewarding, don't get me wrong, but it also takes a lot out of you. And so you have to be able to pour into yourself and then to pour into others from what I call saucer love. So if I have my cup in a saucer, they don't need to come. The love for me is in this cup. The love for others is in the saucer so that they can get the overflow of all of that. My Cash App is Sweet Bee Doula, I believe. But you could also go to my Instagram on my link tree. There's a link that says buy me a coffee or support Black doulas, Black justice, and it's there. What else about my mentoring? I'm gonna post some screenshots actually on my Instagram in a little bit because my mentees are great. And so I just want to make sure that they also feel supported and excited. And we had this huge victory recently where she was talking about like, okay, I'm not really sure how I'm going to navigate this conversation. And we just practiced and broke it down. And my mentees get access to like my brochure and the way that I run my business, which has been successful so far, but also to make sure that they have their own templates for things. Which was a lot of what I did starting out, was like creating a birth goals template and creating a brochure and all these things that I want them to be able to just jumpstart their business. They should not have to start from scratch because there are too many people who need doula support for us to be worried about how to run my business on the back end. Like it should be a seamless process. And that's something I know Tracy also talks about. So definitely good. Thank you all for your support. Okay, bueno. Este cafecito está bien. What else? Yeah. Gracias. Who else said, okay, enjoy your therapy session. Thank you so much. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Ooh, I would love a New York meetup. That would be great. I have to say, New York has my heart, y'all. Baltimore really does too, and DC, so it's kind of a three-way love, but as soon as it's safe, I'm trying to be back in New York City. I would love to meet up with anyone. Also, like, follow me, go to my link tree and schedule a consult or like a 15-minute chat, because we could also just meet up now and get to know each other. And then once we head off into the land of safeness with this pandemic, then or land of safety, then I'd love to connect with you there and in person as well. So thank you everyone for your time. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to make sure these are saved. Pray for me that I get this technology right. And it was an honor and pleasure to be with you this morning. Enjoy your day. Share to IGTV.